One day, my children, things have begun to heat up, or grown cold, depending on your perspective, in the story of Rachel and her town rising from their shallow graves. So, let's continue the story, shall we? We had gotten some explanations from last time that a woman named Lilith, in fact the Lilith, the original woman before Eve, had made a deal with the devil himself, Malice, to destroy the town of Manson for their crimes that had been committed against her and her fellows 300 years ago, including supposedly Rachel herself, though Rachel kept poking holes at her story. Malice, possessing the body of their friend Jet, tells the immortal little girl Zoe his plans for her to carry the Antichrist into adulthood before hopping bodies once more into a priest, Jet supposedly dying once more. And Rachel dug herself out of yet another grave that Lilith had transported her into, this one full of the bones of 100 innocents that the town had killed on suspicion of witchcraft. Rachel's gonna be an Olympian at digging herself out of the ground at this rate. And there's just so much to talk about this time, my children. Earl brings Dr. Simon in to examine Jet's body and try to determine if there's anything that can be done for her. He put her in the freezer to try to prevent decomposition, but the doctor notes that none has taken place at all anyway. And indeed, the solution may be that they just need more time. After all, Rachel supposedly died again after being tossed off a roof, but it took a couple of days for her to get back up again. Dr. Simon also tries to suggest to Earl that love might be the solution, that some sort of action on his part, like a kiss, could do the trick, that fairy tales are based in some reality, like Sleeping Beauty. Although he also recounts how it was not a kiss that did the trick, it was another assault, so his judgment on this is probably not that great. Still, Earl brings Jet's body to Rachel, hoping that she might be able to help. And indeed, with Rachel and Aunt Johnny on the phone, they realize that Jet is indeed returning to unlife. It's just taking a while. Meanwhile, Lilith's compatriots, including the bandaged woman, now no longer bandaged, named Mary Scott and another named Hannah, are beginning their own plans for the city, hypnotizing a worker at the water distribution center, planting child pornography on his computer, and then putting something in the water supply itself. Jet does finally wake up and they try to get her some water, but as we see around town, the water is not good right now. It's full of rats. Our group meets up with Aunt Johnny and they compare notes, desperately trying to figure out what it is that's causing all this. But while Johnny tries to offer scientific explanations, Rachel has to try to get her to accept the truth, that this is magic. Rachel is remembering more and more of her own history, the one from 300 years ago, though she only has vague recollections of it. Still, she realizes that she has a power of her own. She can sense the approach of death, the deaths one has caused on people. And when she touched Zoe, she saw hell. Speaking of Zoe, she escapes the police and finds herself in the company of a certain malice-possessed priest, who of course fails to inform her of that fact. Over time, he convinces her that her true destiny is to be an avenger, a killer of terrible people in the service of God. She certainly has enough experience killing, as Rachel noted. Lilith, meanwhile, begins a ritual out in the woods to empower herself like a phoenix, watched over by Hannah and Mary Scott. She rants about God and Eve, how she was left to watch the children of Eve multiply on the earth and die and rot, while she remained immortal forever. Made no better when Mary Scott and Hannah are forced to kill a pair of hunters who come across them, and they spot Mom Lie. Death herself sent one of the hunters to hell, and escorts the other to heaven. Lilith's solution to her dilemma? Kill the entire damned human race. Just gonna throw this out there, Lilith, but I don't think the guy upstairs is that keen on it. Plus, you're just making more work for Mama Lie, so she's probably gonna be annoyed too. Elsewhere, Detective Corpel, who has been investigating these strange events in the town, actually believes the Waterworks employee when he says he's innocent. The child porn was all created on the same day, and there are surveillance tapes of the women going into his work and doing the terrible things they did. But unfortunately, while this proves his innocence, he has no idea who they are, and thus is not really that helpful for the investigation. He notes that everyone is in trouble now, and that especially includes our heroes, as Earl spots something odd in Aunt Johnny's house and busts his way in, discovering, to his horror, all of them dead again. A suicide note from Aunt Johnny's girlfriend Carol present under her. It seems that, in her Catholic background, the idea of the dead walking the earth spells the end of days, and she was not taking it well. Personally, I see that as an excuse for a killer party. And hey, as we've seen with every other volume now, this is probably not going to last that long.